In this presentation, I will be exploring the life and legacy of the Japanese Showa Emperor Hirohito, who reigned from 1926 until his death in 1989, and see how he was one of the most significant figures in modern Japanese history. Born on April 29, 1901, the Showa Emperor Hirohito entered the world during a period of rapid change and transition of Japan. The era is named Showa, meaning enlightened peace. He was actually the oldest son of the then Emperor Taisho and Empress Teimei, but his upbringing living in the imperial household and growing up during the major transitional period, Hirohito was carefully introduced by his mentors and tutors to both the traditional rituals of Japan and duties related to his royal heritage, and also modern Western disciplines, which these combined would ultimately come to shape his worldview. Also, Hirohito was influenced a lot with the guidance of military generals, in the sense that he would be instilled with military values such as discipline and respect for the imperial institution. This was part of his education to prepare him for his soon-to-be role of emperor, and also this was during a time when Japanese military played a big role in the country's affairs and such. So after the Taisho Emperor's death in December 1926, Hirohito would begin his reign as the Emperor of Japan at the age of 25. But during his time, Japan was facing many problems, including things like economic issues and also some military issues. Hirohito took the lead in Japan through the challenges and difficulties during this period of the 20th century. So the Manchurian incident of 1931 was a significant and kind of pivotal event. The Kuomintang army staged a railway line explosion in Manchuria, and they were like a puppet state of Japan. And so they blamed it on China, and then it gave Japan reason and pretext for Japanese military intervention, widening Japan's territorial expansion. This development, orchestrated by the Kuomintang army, caused considerable anxiety for Hirohito, as it presented challenges to his leadership and the stability of the imperial house. Military leaders, particularly figures like General Tojo, advocated for Japan to assert control over all aspects of warfare, including military, economic, ideological, and strategic dimensions. However, Hirohito, influenced by his experiences during the Russo-Japanese War, remained cautious in embracing rapid militarization and territorial expansion. He was reluctant to break with Japan's traditional allies and was concerned about potential instability within the imperial house. This tension between Hirohito's cautious approach and the military's ambitions highlighted the complexities of governance and decision-making during this part of his reign. As tensions with the United States escalated, Emperor Showa found himself at the center of decision-making processes. The countdown to war culminated in a meeting on December the 1st, where Emperor Showa, along with the cabinet and military high command, discussed the emerging conflict. Despite misrepresentations and pressure from militaristic factions, Emperor Showa always showed a measured demeanor during these times and seeked reassurances about the success of war operations. The event in the trajectory towards the war under Showa's reign. A document reflecting Japan's motivations and justifications for the war, Emperor Showa actively participated in composing and reviewing the rescript, ensuring it aligned with the visions of Japan's role on the global stage. Despite his desire for peace, the rescript emphasized Japan's determination to defend its existence and challenge Anglo-American imperialism in Asia. So on December the 8th, 1941, Japan launched coordinated surprise attacks, including the infamous assault on Pearl Harbor. Throughout the day, Emperor Showa remained engaged on unfolding events, receiving updates on military operations and spoke with key advisors. Despite the gravity of the situation, though, throughout the day the emperor wore his naval uniform and seemed to be in a splendid mood. Following this attack, Japan was entered into World War II. The emperor's role during World War II remains a subject of historical debate. In early years of the war, Hirohito consulted with senior statesmen and military leaders to determine Japan's strategy and course of action. Despite the situation, there was a consensus among advisors to continue the struggle. As noted in a statement such as, Hirohito agreed rather with a senior statesman to end the war would be very difficult unless we make one more military gain. This demonstrates Hirohito's initial reluctance to consider peace negotiations and his alignment with the prevailing sentiment of continuing the war. As the war progressed, though, Japan faced mounting challenges both domestically and internationally. Hirohito put a lot of effort into maintaining domestic unity and suppressing dissent, particularly as signs of defeatism grew around him. The Emperor Hirohito was deeply involved in military affairs during the war. He intervened in operations to boost morale and strategize. But the debate is that while some portray him as opposing war crimes within Japanese institutions, others assert his involvement in improving strategies like the 3 Rs policy, causing significant civilian casualties in China. As the tide of the war shifted against Japan in late 1942 and early 1943, Hirohito's role continued to evolve amid mounting challenges. While some sources suggest that Hirohito remained well informed about Japan's military position, others highlight discrepancies between information reaching the palace and the reality of the situation that was actually happening. And during the later parts of the war, despite growing awareness of the grim realities facing Japan, the media under government control portrayed Hirohito as a symbol of resilience, even as cities faced heavy air attacks and shortages mounted. This divergence between official narratives and the harsh realities on the ground underscores the complexities of Hirohito's leadership during this period. The turning point of Hirohito's leadership came with Japan's surrender in August 1945. Despite earlier reluctance, Hirohito ultimately chose to accept the terms of the Potsdam Declaration and end the war. His announcement on the radio of surrender on August 15, 1945 marked a significant moment in Japanese history. As described, Hirohito's speech framed the decision as a means to seize the high moral ground from the Allies by declaring that he was acting to save human civilization from total extinction by paving the way of grand peace for all the generations to come. Hirohito also reiterated, just as his war rescript stated, that the aim of the war had been national existence and self-defense, and he expressed regret only to the puppet and collaborationist regimes in Asia that had been Japan's allies. Following the surrender, Hirohito and the government sought to shape the narrative surrounding Japan's actions and the emperor's role. Efforts were made to diffuse accountability for war crimes and portray Hirohito as a benevolent ruler who ended the war to save the nation. The media and government represented the emperor to the nation as the benevolent sage and apolitical ruler who had ended the war. The surrender broadcast ritual confirmed Hirohito's inherent power to create a radically new situation. Emperor Hirohito's reign during post-war Japan was marked by significant political transformations, challenges, and attempts to reconcile with the nation's past. During the later years of his reign, Hirohito's political concerns extended beyond domestic affairs. His involvement in political matters was limited by constitutional constraints. This limitation led to gradual decline in his relevance to Japanese politics. Hirohito's passing in 1989 marked the end of an era, prompting reflections on his legacy and Japan's future direction. Emperor Akihito succeeded him with a pledge to uphold the constitution. In the aftermath of Hirohito's death, Japan grappled with its historical narrative and the role of the monarchy in a democratic society. Emperor Hirohito's legacy continues to resonate in contemporary Japanese society, influencing attitudes towards nationalism, pacifism, and historical memory.